there's one thing you should invest your money in when it comes to riding, it's a good helmet. And there are loads of different kinds of helmets out there, some expensive ones and some pretty low-end ones. But if you're new to motocross or dirt bikes in general, you might find yourself asking, what should I look for in a helmet? What's important?
And look, I get it. You walk into your local shop, there is an entire wall full of lids. You don't know which one to pick. All you see are different colors, maybe some different shapes. And you're like, man, I just want a new helmet, or I just want to get a helmet, maybe my first helmet. I get it. It can be a little confusing. What's up, everybody? I'm Mitch. Thanks for checking out another video on my YouTube channel, Fit for Moto. You guessed it. Today's video, it's about helmets. And I'm not deep diving into the really technical specs of helmets. This is just a really basic, if you're looking at picking up a new lid, or maybe you're looking at picking up your first lid, some things to keep in mind. It's going to be a really basic helmet thing, but there are some couple things that you want to keep in mind if you're looking at getting a helmet. So let's roll the intro and let's get into it.
One of the first things you want to make sure it has is a DOT certification. That, of course, is a legal must, so any helmet that you're looking at will undoubtedly have it. So with that out of the way, let's look at some of the things that make the helmet more expensive than others.
All right, so right out of the gate, obviously number one is going to be safety. Not all helmets are created equal. Now the Fox helmet that I have here, which is a V3, this is my main helmet. This is the one you probably see me have in the videos and stuff. Really comfortable helmet. I really like it quite a lot, but it has an important feature in it. Just pull up my liner. As you can see, it's got all these little blue pods in it, these little blue packs. And what those are, they're called fluid inside, or FI technology. The point of those is, when you have an impact with that helmet, when you have an accident, it's going to help with some of the rotational forces, some of the compressive forces when you smack your head. The point of them is actually supposed to be to mimic the brain fluid that you have inside of your skull, which is going to help mitigate some of those forces that are transferred onto your brain. Seems pretty important, right? Now, I don't have one here with me, but the 6D helmet, which is another high-end helmet, they're pretty expensive. They have something called ODS, the Omnidirectional Suspension System, I think it's called. And it's actually pretty cool thing to have. What that is think of it like a bunch of little suspensions or a bunch of little springs inside your helmet. So you have your helmet, you have your head, it goes on top of your head. You got a bunch of these little springs inside there. So when you have a crash, when you have an accident, when you hit your head is going to be more freely to move with inside that. So it's going to transfer less rotational forces and less impact forces to your head. These little springs will shear off. They'll take some of that compression force. It's a pretty neat thing to have, and they're totally replaceable on the 6D helmet, which I think is pretty cool. You could hit your head, as long as the shell, the integrity of the lid is still good, you can actually have it completely rebuilt for less money than it costs going out getting a whole new helmet. I think that's pretty cool too. But just like this Fox helmet with the fluid inside, just like the 6D helmet with the ODS or whatever it's called, that's not cheap. That you're gonna have to pay for this. But in my opinion, if you're paying for a bike, you need to include the helmet cost in whatever the cost is of that bike. Don't go out and just pick up any old helmet, because they're not all created equal. You can get a helmet for 150 bucks. Will it protect your head against a lot of stuff? Absolutely. But we're not protecting our heads against a lot of stuff. We're gonna protect our heads against the most important stuff, which means bigger impacts, bigger crashes. I've heard of people dying just from falling off of their bike before and hitting their head. With a helmet on, by the way. So why not invest in something, it doesn't have to be the Fox, it doesn't have to be the 6D, but just get one of the higher end, more expensive helmets that are meant to try and save your head.
With the biggest safety differences out of the way, next up is weight. A lot more expensive helmets have lighter and cheaper options than some of the less expensive helmets have. And that's not a hard and fast rule, however. Some helmets may have tech in them that keeps the emphasis on safety rather than just being lightweight.
Now, one of the biggest things that I love about the Aero helmets is just how light they are. These things weigh in at about 1,285-ish grams, which is really light. If you don't have any context, that's really light compared to, say, this Fox helmet, which, by the way, is also really light for a helmet. This thing weighs about 1,500 grams, so it starts to add up. Now, weight may not be something that's very important to you, but it is for me, and I do notice the difference of the weight on my head when you're trying to keep that bobblehead up steady when you're riding on the track or the trail or whatever it is. So weight is something to be considered. That being said, depending on the helmet, they might not be lighter because they have some other technology in them that's more important maybe than saving a little weight, i.e. the Fox with the fluid inside. That's why I went away from the Aero helmets. Just something to consider.
Now there are other things like removable liners, replaceable inserts in the event you have an impact. Like I mentioned with the 6D helmet, you can pretty much make a new lid with replacement parts. Some helmets, like the Fox V3, have a detachable visor. It's held in place magnetically, and in the event of a crash, it pops off, so less of that awkward force is transferred to your neck.
So those are just a couple things to keep in mind if you're looking at getting your first helmet, you're looking at picking up a new helmet, and you're really not sure what to get into. Each manufacturer you will find has a pretty in-depth video of the technology and all the fancy little bells and whistles and the little venting system and how much airflow it has through the helmet, all that kind of stuff. I'm just getting into the really basic stuff. Is it really heavy and it's gonna make my neck hurt from carrying this thing around for hours? Or does it have technology in it that's over and above what a standard helmet will have, which is just an EPS liner, which is just like hard foam and some cushioning in it? Does it have something in there that's gonna help keep my head a little safer? I'll say it again, if you're looking at getting a lid, make sure that you spend the money on a quality helmet. I think it's totally worth it. And funny story, this helmet here, so as you can see, other than this one, all these helmets here have some dirt on them, right? And that's not just because I'm too lazy to clean them, it's because I'm a little superstitious, but these helmets here, the last time I wore them was when I had a crash in them. So obviously if you crash in your helmet, you need to replace it. I'm not gonna ride in it anymore. This helmet in particular, I was so stoked about this helmet. Very cool paint job, super light. Fell in love with it as soon as I saw it. Picked it up, it was about $700, so not cheap whatsoever, but I was like, hey, treat yourself, right? Get this thing to the track. Literally, I took it out of the box, I put it on. I go out, 20 minutes later, I crash. I have a big crash. Ended up in the emergency room. In 20 minutes, this thing hit the ground. That's what all this dirt is from. Smashed my head, and that helmet was out of play. Now, there's two ways to look at this, I've always thought. Either I'm the luckiest or the most unlucky person on the planet. Either I'm the luckiest because I upgraded my helmet from an older one and I just did it just in time because I had a brand new helmet on my head from one that was quite a few years old. And that really saved me from some more serious damage. Or I'm unlucky because I just paid $700, took it out of the box, put it back on the tailgate at the end of the day and said, well, I need to go get a new helmet, which is why I went and picked up this Aero helmet. Now, I rode with this one for a while too, but it doesn't have the same technology that some of these higher end ones that I was talking about have. So once I started to learn more about that, I decided this kind of stuff was important. Anyway, funny little story. I hope you liked the video. I hope it helped you in some way. If so, smash that subscribe button for me. You know I appreciate it. Check out some links below. I'll show you how to get some cool gear, some free programs, all kinds of stuff. Make sure you scroll down and check that stuff out. I hope to see you guys out there. Stay safe, ride safe with the lid on. We'll see you in the next video.